Hey y'all, my name is Shiva, and I want to welcome you to this episode of the Soul Tapes podcast. I believe that we are souls in a human body experiencing this thing we call life. This podcast is meant to be a safe space to dive into the experiences that we have in this lifetime, from the minor to the monumental and everything in between. If something in your soul resonates with that, sit back and relax while I get into today's topic. So today we're going to get into trust issues, except I'm talking about the ones you have with yourself. Dun, dun, dun. I want to touch on the ways that we're taught to doubt our intuition and how it affects the way we show up for others, ourselves, and the ways that it can lead to self-sabotage. So Google defines trust issues as characterized by fear of betrayal, abandonment, or manipulation. This fear is often triggered as a result of said betrayal, abandonment, or manipulation. So when I think of trust issues, I typically think of our relationship with others. So a lot of times people, when you think of the dating scene, will say stuff like, I can't get too close to anybody, I got trust issues, people always do me dirty, blah, 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 right? So that's the typical context that we think of trust issues. But I think that we often externalize trust issues too much because we have been hurt by other people. But I think that when we trust our intuition to tell us that a person, place, or thing is safe, and we have an experience that shows us that this person, place, or thing is not safe, that's when we start to develop trust issues. It's usually due to not trusting ourselves or our intuition or our instincts. And so when we don't trust ourselves or our instincts or our intuition, we get hurt because it's easier to externalize it and say, oh, this thing hurt me, instead of saying, I saw the red flags, I saw that something wasn't right, but I did not trust what my gut was telling me. And I can only speak for myself because at the end of the day, I am talking to myself. I mean, I hope somebody is out there listening. Hello, thank you. But speaking for myself, I've had plenty of times where anxiety tore my ass up, tore me up, because I didn't know who or what I should trust, and if I should trust what I'm seeing versus what I'm hoping. And sometimes it's really hard to tell which one is the truth. Sometimes you're seeing one thing, but you just have a lot of faith that what you're hoping or the potential that you're placing onto this person, place, or thing is going to pan out. So you're hoping this is going to pan out, and sometimes you see that as truth. You try to find facts to validate what you're already hoping. And I have a biology degree, and I've done a lot of research, and that is just bad research techniques. You do not look at the data and only cherry pick what data proves your hypothesis. So you should not be looking at your experiences, only picking the experiences that prove that this person is a good person or that this is a good opportunity to dive into. If there's a lot of other data that's showing you otherwise, you have to take that into account too. And I think that's where a lot of our trust issues come from. We always have a point, or we often have a point, where we see the red flags, or our gut tells us to turn around or don't do it, or don't interact with that boy, and we push past it. We push past it because we are attached to the outcome that we have already projected onto the situation. And if we don't learn to trust ourselves and our own intuition first and foremost, people can sell you a dream and tell you and show you what they want you to see and call it truth. And if you don't learn to have discernment or to decipher what's truth from what's lie, then eventually you'll accept it, and those half-truths and those lies will stop adding up, and you'll be left wondering, like, why didn't I see it sooner? Why did I not notice that nigga was not shit? Even though he tried to show you 50-11 times that he was very much not shit, but you wanted this man to be your man, to be your boyfriend, to be all of these things. So you ignored that and only paid attention to the time he got you flowers once on your birthday. I don't know. I'm sorry. I feel like this is hitting close to home. So I apologize in advance. I am not here to attack y'all. I love y'all all very much. But I'm also talking to myself, okay? I gotta look in the mirror too. So where do these trust issues come from? Right? I think that most of these trust issues that you have with yourself come from childhood, to be honest. Because as children, especially if you are Black or a person of color, that often looks like being told not to ask too many questions, don't talk back, you can't go against any of the rules that are already set in place. So when you're not allowed to ask questions, a lot of times you go for anything, and that goes into adulthood. Our bosses, our friends, our significant others can tell us to do anything. And because we're taught not to ask questions, we just go with it, It makes us like little robots, kind of. And I think that, especially in relationships, where you feel like the actions that you take or the things that you say affect whether or not somebody is going to be in your life, I think that heavily affects whether or not you ask questions too. Because you're worried, like, okay, when I was a child, when I asked too many questions, I got a whooping. Your partner should not be whooping you, baby. Listen to me. If he's whooping you or she's whooping you because you're asking too many questions, ask for somebody for some help. And it could be me. I'll pull up. Okay? But back to the point. As a child, you're generally disciplined for asking questions. And so carrying that into our relationships, our adult relationships, we are scared that if we ask questions, we are going to be disciplined in the form of somebody revoking their access or revoking our access to them, or somebody leaving us, or whatever the case may be, right? Or it's going to change the dynamic in some way, shape, or form. So we're basically conditioned from childhood not to ask any questions, because if we do, that person will take their love away or their presence away. And I think that going back to childhood and really understanding when you lost your voice, when you stopped asking questions, can help you identify the source of your trust issues. Like, I know for me, I have some trust issues with my family, especially my mom. Like, there were a lot of situations where I was told to stay in a child's place. I couldn't ask questions, and I was a naturally very inquisitive and smart child. And so eventually over time, I got worn down to the point where I stopped asking questions in general. What you want me to do? Oh, you want me to go do that? Okay, I'm going to go do it. But that opened me up to a lot of abuse and toxic friendships and relationships, because I started being a yes man for a lot of people. And it's very unfortunate, especially because as a child and as an adult who has a lot of those childhood wounds, you're probably a very sweet person, You probably do a lot of things out of the kindness of your heart, and you're not necessarily respecting anything in turn except mutual respect. And a lot of times you can't even get that, And so a lot of times you externalize it and you're like, the world sucks and da-da-da-da. And I'm not going to take that away from you. You know what I mean? Like, it very much does suck sometimes, But I also think that it is so important to find your way back to that childlike need to ask questions, and find your way back to listening to your intuition and listening to your gut. Because when you really learn how to listen to your intuition and to your gut, there's not a lot of times you can be steered wrong. You can listen to other people's opinions and you can listen to what other people have to say, but when you're really confident in your intuition and what you think is the right thing to do, it's really hard for people to make you a yes man. You're not, a lot of shit you're not going for no more, because you know yourself and you know what's right for you. And I think that's really important because, we're just souls in my perspective. We're just souls in a human body. We're experiencing this thing we call life. And life should not feel like you are a robot, It should more so feel like a choose your own adventure type of vibe, You have a situation and you have choices. Based on what you think is the right choice, you make that. So that requires a big level of self-trust. And I think that in general, we all lack that to some degree. And I will say that I am getting better. Like I've said it before in other episodes, everything I say is stuff I'm still learning and still working on. I am not perfect in any way, shape, or form. But I am working on trusting myself. Because I think my lack of trust, like I said before, definitely came from childhood. Like my mom did not want me to ask a lot of questions. My dad didn't mind when I asked questions. But my mom did not allow me to ask a lot of questions. And that was especially harmful because I was in some abusive situations. And in those types of situations, when you're not allowed to ask questions, you really do go for anything. You see mistreatment as very normal. And so now in my adulthood journey, I am trying very hard to work through that lack of trust in myself, so that way I can discern who is really for me and who's not for me. I can know who has genuine intentions and who has bad intentions. And I think that's difficult if you don't have guidance on that, or if you've been going based on the programming you got since you were a child. So now my goal is to work on becoming an expert on myself and learning to trust my intuition. Because I stopped being the expert on Shiva a very long time ago, and I started back being an expert on Shiva a few years ago. Because you could have asked me, I used to hate those interview questions that were like, tell me about yourself. Girl, I don't know. I don't know. I do not know. But now I do know. And not only do I know who I am, what I am, but I know what I'm going for, what I'm not going for. And I also know when to open myself up. And I think that's the other part of trust and self-trust, I should say, that people don't talk about. A lot of times when we lack trust and we have trust issues, we know when to cut some stuff off. We know very well, okay, boom, I can't trust nobody no more. Everybody do me dirty, da 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 da. The world sucks. Can't nobody get close to me, right? We know when to do that. But when we don't trust ourselves, what we really don't know how to do is open up. And there's so much power in allowing yourself to be vulnerable in the right places. Because if you don't, you will sabotage yourself. And self-sabotage, baby, that's a no-no. That's like a bad word. I hate self-sabotage. Me and my niggas hate self-sabotage. But self-sabotage is basically when you have a really good opportunity or relationship or whatever the case may be, but because you don't trust yourself or others, or you don't feel like you're deserving, you get in your own way. So some examples of that may be like imposter syndrome, if you've ever heard of that. So people in the workplace may feel imposter syndrome, where they have the qualifications or they have the degree or whatever the case may be, but they don't feel like they deserve to be there with their other colleagues. A lot of Black academics feel it. Like, I know when I worked in laboratories or when I'm in academic settings, sometimes I do have imposter syndrome. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't know if I belong here, or I don't know if I deserve to be here, or I don't know if I've done enough work to be here. And that can lead to some self-sabotage, because I've had some really great opportunities. And if I let that self-sabotage speak for me, then I would have talked myself out of a lot of really great opportunities in my life. And I think that applies to a lot of things, not just jobs, but also relationships, friendships, etc. If you think that everybody is against you because you don't trust your own intuition to tell you when somebody is really against you or not, then you are going to shut a lot of good things out of your life and a lot of good people out of your life. And it's really easy to do that, The second somebody new comes into your life, they're like, oh, they just saying that because they want to da-da-da, or they just this, they just that, da-da-da. And that might be true. But if you don't know how to trust yourself and how to listen to your own intuition, then what if somebody comes around and they really do mean all that corny stuff they saying? What if somebody comes around and they really do want to be with you forever? Because you don't trust yourself to pick the right people, or because you don't trust yourself to know when somebody's actually good for you, you will self-sabotage that and say, well, everybody just sucks. Nobody has good intentions. And that's doing yourself a disservice. Because you deserve good things. You deserve to be in good places. You deserve to have your accolades and accomplishments recognized. You deserve a healthy relationship. You deserve healthy friendships. You deserve healthy relationships with your family members. You deserve all of those things simply because you exist. Not because you have this degree or that degree, or because you can do this or you can be in a handstand. I don't care what you can do. You deserve just because. Literally just because you're alive. And so, one, that's an important part to recognize. But two, when you recognize that you deserve those things, it's a lot easier for you to let go of some of the trauma-informed opinions that you have about relationships, about life, about opportunities, and you're able to actually accept those things. Because, duh, why wouldn't this person be saying all of these things to me? I'm the shit. Duh, I do deserve that. Or, duh, why wouldn't I get this job opportunity? I deserve that. I have the accolades. I have the experience. I have the qualities they're looking for. And so you can just accept a lot more goodness into your life without questioning it. And I say without questioning it in the sense of without questioning that you deserve it. I do think that it's important to listen to your gut. Because a lot of times she will not steer you wrong. She, I'm saying she. I don't know if our gut has a gender. It's low-key just a bunch of little bacteria in there. They're very much non-binary. But, when you listen to your gut, you can learn a lot of things. Not only how to open up, but how to cut off access when you need to. I think listening to your intuition can give you a really great balance that a lot of us lack, myself included. I think finding the balance is really what life is all about. So I really do want to get into how to trust your intuition. And so that's what I'm going to talk about next. All right. Okay, boom. Right? Okay. We've talked about intuition and self-sabotage and all that great stuff. Now, how do we start trusting our intuition? I know y'all probably be like, oh my gosh, you just be chatting, don't want to give us no solutions or tell us how to fix it. But I'm going to get to that, baby. You just have to be a little patient. Okay? So, how to trust your intuition. There's no one right or wrong way to do it. And I feel like I be giving y'all the same solutions for everything, but that's because journaling and meditation can apply to a lot of different things. Mostly because it's about getting reconnected with yourself and your inner voice and learning how you feel about things before you go and share them with the world and others. So I think the first way to really trust or learn to trust your intuition is to start journaling before you ask anybody else their opinion, or talk to yourself about it. Work it out with yourself, whether it be in a shower, on your Finsta, in your journal. Talk about the situations you're going through on your own before you start asking for your friends' opinions. Because a lot of times we ask for our friends' opinions and then use it as law. They are just as misguided as you. No offense to my friends, but we all have trauma. No bullshit. We all have been through some stuff, And because we have all been through some things, a lot of times our opinions and our advice is informed by the trauma that we've been through. So if you don't trust yourself and I don't trust myself, but I'm always coming to you for advice, you're just giving me advice from a place of lack of trust. And I'm doing the same when you ask me for advice. So a really great way to build better intuition is to talk to yourself first. How do you feel about it before you involve anybody else's opinion, before you get anybody else's trauma involved? Ask yourself first. And this is not to say that you should not trust your friends. I definitely think that you should talk to your friends, because an outside opinion a lot of times can give you a lot of insight if your friends are honest people and not just yes men who are not just going to tell you what you want to hear. But when you talk to yourself about it first, you can make your own opinions, figure out how you feel about it, and that way when you ask your friends for advice, it can more so be like, okay, I can see that perspective, or that's a different perspective, but it's not going to sway how you feel about the situation. And then another really big thing I think is important to do is when those gut feelings come up, because we all have them. Like when somebody does something that you don't like, you instantly have a gut reaction to that. Whether it be, ooh, I didn't like that, or something about that rubbed me the wrong way. You might not know exactly why until you take the time to reflect on it. But you, for the most part, know when something is off about a situation. A lot of times we rationalize it away because what we're experiencing does not validate the idea we already have in our head. So, for example, you just started talking to somebody. Y'all been talking for a few weeks. This person usually is very consistent with communication, but one night they don't communicate at all. No communication at all. That's a red flag, right? But in the morning they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I was just sleeping. Okay, I mean, that might be true, that might not be true. But if your gut tells you, okay, this is weird, and then they do it again, those are 2 red flags. Your gut is telling you this is weird, but if you keep on writing it off, you're not trusting yourself to warn yourself when something is wrong. You're just letting it be. So when those gut feelings come up, explore them. And I think that a lot of times we can confuse intuition with anxiety. You can have a gut feeling, or what you think is a gut feeling. It can really be anxiety. And my rule for that, when I get those feelings, to figure out whether or not it's anxiety or it's intuition, is how it feels. If it feels like it's coming out of fear, like I'm scared to lose this person, or I'm scared they're going to cheat on me because everybody's done it in the past, it's probably anxiety. But if it's coming from a place of knowing or peace, like there's no like, oh my God, like there's no panic in it, you're like, okay, I think this person's probably cheating on me. Then that's probably intuition. I think that there are 2 very distinct feelings, and the more that you practice it, the more that you'll be able to differentiate between anxiety and intuition. And they can feel a lot alike in the beginning. Please do not get me wrong, especially if you have like trauma or you've had, similar experiences in the past. It's easy to be like, I saw that in the past, so this is exactly what it is. I know that's what it is. It's so easy to do that. But a lot of times that's coming out of fear. And that can, go back into self-sabotage. Because if you have fear of being hurt like you were in the past, and you don't trust yourself to warn yourself when something is really wrong, then you might sabotage something real good. And you done talked yourself out of a relationship that could have been very successful, or you done talked yourself out of a job that you could have been very good at and been making a big money, because it's coming from fear. It's anxiety. But if it's coming from peace or knowing, it's intuition. That's how I like to think about it. I apologize. Please ignore my computer. And another really important way that you can learn to trust your intuition is through meditation. So I know a lot of people, when they think of meditation, they think like, oh, the brain just has to be silent. You can't have any thoughts and da-da-da-da. But you can meditate on something too. So you can meditate on something you're going through. So for example, if you have a big interview coming up and you're scared that you're not going to qualify, or you're not going to do great on it, because you feel like your gut is telling you that you're just not going to do great on it or whatever, right? You're about to sabotage it. Take some time, meditate, sit down on the floor, or lay down, however you want to do it, and really think through the situation. What are the possibilities? Why do I think those are the possibilities? What's stopping me from making my ideal outcome a reality? Just take the time and meditate on it. And even if you don't have all the answers to those, then boom, sit in silence. Those thoughts will come, whether you want them to or not. I've done multiple meditations that said that thoughts are kind of like clouds. They're going to come, pass through, and leave. So bring that topic up, before your meditation in your mind and be like, I want to meditate on this new job opportunity. Make sure that I'm doing the right thing. Sit there. See what thoughts come through. Once you take the time to meditate on it, you'll have some type of enlightenment. You know, it might not be very clear. You might have to do it again. But the more that you practice it, just like anything else, the more that you practice it, the better you will get at it. And the better you'll be at discerning what answers come from that meditation. The same thing with journaling. The more that you journal about it, the better you get at it. It's a practice. And then I think anything that you believe in spiritually or religiously can also be a really good way to have discernment. Pray about it. If you believe that God sends you messages or can tell you the right direction to go in, pray about it first in a nice, calm environment. Sit down and just pray about whatever it is you're going through or a decision that you're trying to make. See what God has to say about it. If you're not religious, but you're more spiritual, see what your ancestors or your guides or whatever, what do they have to say about it? Take the time and listen. Let those decisions be informed in peace. Try not to make any harsh decisions when you are not peaceful. Like if you're trying to listen to your gut and you're stressed out and you crying and doing the 3 S's, sit down. Sit down. I said 3 S's, but what I really mean is shitting, crying, and throwing up. If you're in that type of mind state, don't make any decisions at the moment, because your gut is not present. That's fear. That's anxiety. When you are able to be calm and really think through it, that's when your discernment will be at its highest peak. And then you can make a decision. Then you can really decide how you feel about something. Because there's plenty of times where I was in a relationship, and because I was in a state of anxiety or fear or whatever the case may be, when I was talking out my ass, y'all. I was saying anything because it was just coming straight off the dome out of fear, you know. So I'm cussing somebody out. Come to find out later down the road, they didn't even do what I was accusing them of, you know, because I was making decisions out of anxiety and fear because I didn't trust what I knew to be true. But once I took the time to sit down and think about it and really ponder on it, I was like, you know what? Maybe I did too much. Am I the drama? I don't think I'm the drama. But sometimes you really do need to sit down, wait till you're calm, and then make those decisions. Then think about how you really feel about it, and that intuition and that gut feeling will come because it's a part of you. It's inherent. So the last thing I just want to leave y'all with is work on trusting yourself, okay? You are a good person to listen to, and that means when you listen to yourself, you have good things to say, you make good choices, you have all of the tools and equipment you need to have good decision-making skills. Don't let your trauma inform all of your decisions. You know, we're trying to move forward. So if you make all of your decisions based off of what you've experienced in the past, you will always be stuck in the past. We are moving forward onto bigger and better things. We are imagining futures for ourselves that we have not yet experienced. It is time to release yourself from the shackles of not trusting yourself. It's just not worth it, boo. Okay? I love you. I want better for you. I want better for me. I want better for us. So let's promise to work on it together. And so, as you know, at the end of every episode, I try to recommend a song to you guys. And this episode's song is Fragile by Erin Allen Kane. It is a very emotional song. She talks about how her mom built all these walls, and because she watched her mom build all those walls, she learned to build those same walls too. And because she built all those walls, she could never let anybody in. And I think that that's related to today's topic, because a lot of us do build those walls. you know, instead of trusting ourselves to let them down for the right people. So go ahead and give that song a listen. I hope that you have a great rest of your day, week, month, year, life. Until we talk again, I love you very much. Please be safe. Bye.